It was a great game last night in San Francisco. The Dodgers were able to come back and win a very dramatic extra inning game. Exercised a lot of demons all in one. Hey, I'm Casey Porter. Welcome to Dodgers Daily. So glad that you decided to tune in. So it was a total team effort last night. 7 different players had base hits. 5 different players had RBIs. You saw all of the different innings that the Dodgers scored in. It was a comeback win. You saw Yamamoto just absolutely grind out an outing for the Dodgers that wasn't his best outing. We're going to get into it here in a minute. But he did grind and get almost to that magical 6-inning appearance that is very crucial for Dodgers starters. And then you also saw the bullpen come in. Michael Grove came in, Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan, JP Fireeisen, Alex Vesia was the fireman. So there were just so many different people that contributed to last night's game. It was a total team effort. And it was a great game to watch. I mean, you had great plays, you had bad plays, you had good pitching, you had at times not good pitching. You had the great play by Yastrzemski in right field. Then you also had wild pitches. You had home runs. You had comebacks. And then eventually the Dodgers were able to beat a arch rival in the Giants on the road. And then just kind of get the bad taste out of your mouth all in one. Then also win an extra inning game and a close game, something that I know a lot of Dodgers fans, including myself, have been frustrated with as of the last couple of years. So there were a lot of different things that play last night that the Dodgers were able to overcome and defeat that make you feel really good about what happened last night. So lots of drama in San Francisco. It was a lot of fun. Offense was good enough, and hey, it was balanced enough. Scored in 5 different innings. Again, won an extra inning game, came back, and all that had 11 hits, 6 runs, and went 3 for 11. So the hitting with runners in scoring position still isn't great, but it was good enough last night to win. As a matter of fact, the Dodgers now 4 for the last 30 with runners in scoring position. Okay, how about Mookie Betts? It's always great whenever your great player like Mookie Betts leads the game off. And not only did he lead the game off with the home run, he also gave the Dodgers a 7-pitch at bat. So, yes, he did hit the home run. Yes, he did put the Dodgers in the lead. But he also acted as a leadoff hitter. He grinded out 7 pitches, and then within those 7 pitches, he saw 3 different pitches, 3 different pitch types. So the Dodgers in the dugout were able to get a good look at Jordan Hicks and look at what his stuff looked like that night because of those 7 pitches, the 3 different pitch types that Mookie Betts was able to see in that at bat, and then eventually he hit the home run and gave the Dodgers the lead. And man, even at the professional level, maybe you could say especially at the professional level, when you take the lead, it's a whole different ball game. Teams win a large percentage of games when they score first. It just, for some reason, that is a very important statistic, and it is absolutely a fact, and Mookie Betts did that for the Dodgers. How about this? Every part of the lineup contributed. We just got through talking about the Mookie Betts home run. Well, how about the Will Smith single, and then obviously the double in the 10th inning that gave the Dodgers the lead and eventually the win. So you had the top of the lineup with Mookie Betts obviously produced, and then Shoheiohtani. How about that at bat where after Andy Pages had doubled, and then with 2 outs and Ohtani's just fighting. We talk about all the time. Freddie Freeman, even Mookie Betts, Shoheiohtani. They are great hitters that are just trying to hit the ball hard. And in this case, Shoheiohtani was just trying to hit the ball, found a way to put the ball in place, hit about a 19 hopper to the second baseman. Again, this is, and I know there's a lot of analytics guys that say, hey, man, the fielders get too good at the major league level, blah, blah, blah. You know, the 3 true outcomes, hit home runs, strike out, and walk, right? Okay, but there still is. Now, I'm not stupid. I know major league fielders are really good. But there still is something to say that with 2 strikes, shorten your swing up, have a 2-strike approach, and put the damn thing in play and just make the defense do something to get you out, right? It's called putting pressure on the defense. And especially when you're left-handed and you can run like Shoheiohtani, hit the ball, run, put pressure on the defense, and see what happens, especially when you have a runner that can score on the same play. That's what Ohtani did, and eventually ended up, it was an infield base hit. It could have gone either way, I think, from the official score. Got on base and drove in the run. So there's another example. We talked about the dead cut center field home runs to the opposite field home runs. The last week, there's another example that Shohei is just trying to be a great offensive player and a great hitter first. So you had the top of the lineup with Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. You had the middle of the lineup with Will Smith, who had the big double and also added a single. And his at bat, I believe, was in the 8th inning. And then the bottom of the lineup. How about the bottom of the lineup with Andy Pages? He led that 6th inning off. That was a huge run right there to come back and get that run. It was one of those that if you're the Giants, you're like, dang, man, we really couldn't afford for that run to score. It just put so much pressure on them, and a team like the Giants eventually will crack. Point blank, they're not a very good team. They're not very disciplined at the plate. It's very obvious. They don't really have a plan at the plate, but they are a team that's very capable, and it is a rivalry, and anything can happen in those kinds of games. So you had, again, the middle with Will, then you had the bottom with Andy Pages leading the 6th inning off and scoring on the double. Then you had the home run from Kike Hernandez. Kike got 2, I believe it was changeups that were low and in. The first here's another scenario of 2 different times last night, both with Will Smith and with Kike Hernandez. The Giants threw the exact same pitch in the exact same location 2 times in a row, and the second time they threw it, the Dodgers were like, well, thank you very much. I think I'm going to go ahead and hit this pitch. And in one case, it was the Kike Hernandez home run. In the second case, it was the double from Will Smith. That was the game winner. So just as kind of an example of how teams that don't win, like the Giants, how they just do things that beat you like that. You can't throw Kike Hernandez, a professional hitter, and Will Smith, who's been one of the hottest and best hitters in baseball this year. We've talked about that many different times. The same pitch in the same location 2 times in a row. You're just asking for it. So you had Will Smith in the middle, and then Kike, and then Andy Pages at the bottom, and then also Gavinlux. How about Gavinlux and the ground rule double? He had 2 hits last night, and the great thing about it was it wasn't just 2 hits. He also did hit the ground rule double, so put a little bit of starch behind that ball, and that's something that I know a lot of Dodgers fans are wanting to see, is for him to get the ball in the air more and then hit the ball a little bit harder. So, hey, how about Gavinlux? Okay, he finished April last month going 5 for his last 16. That's a .313 average. He has hits in 8 out of his last 11 games, and he's hitting .282 in those 11 games, and he scored 8 runs in his last 13 games. At this point, you have a guy who in 2022 was a good offensive player. He's been a fantastic defensive player this year. He's coming off the ACL. He didn't hit for an entire year. And as of right now, okay, again, he ended April 5 for 16. He is showing signs that his offense is coming around and that he's turning into a good offensive player. So if you're not in the boat that you would still like to give Gavinlux some rope to see where he's headed based on his good offense, basically since, the last 4 or 5 games in April, that's good production from a guy who's either in your 8 or 9 hole since basically, the last 16 at-bats in April. So how about Yoshinobu Yamamoto? I'm going to be really honest with you. I've talked about in his last 3 or 4 outings how it's the first time where, as a Dodgers fan who hasn't seen him pitch a whole lot, I've gone, oh, wow, yeah, there it is. That's awesome right there. He throws like that. That's ace-type stuff right there, right? I didn't really see that last night. But what I saw was, honestly, in a lot of ways, last night I was more impressed with Yoshinobu Yamamoto than I was even in the outing to where he's like absolutely perfect, which sometimes he is. And that's because if you're going to be an ace, if you're going to be a top-level type pitcher, we've seen this with Tyler Glass now, you got to go out on nights where everything is absolutely not perfect. Okay, the 4-seam was in the zone last night right around half the time for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I've said I think that 60 to 65% of the time for his 4-seam is the sweet spot for him. So it wasn't in the zone enough. And then when it was in the zone, his fastball absolutely got hit. So in the zone, just matter of fact, right straight up 50% of the time. And the average exit velo on his fastball was 95. So it wasn't in the zone a whole lot. Then when it was in the zone, it absolutely got hit. Also, his splitter, which, man, that splitter that he throws might be the single best pitch of any pitch in baseball. That thing's devastating. Last night, it wasn't its typical just 100% completely, totally, and entirely elite self. I'm talking about the splitter pitch for Yoshinobuyamamoto. He left a couple of them hanging, and as a matter of fact, the average exit velo on his split finger fastball last night was 100.6, and it was in the zone just 25% of the time. So the two pitches he threw his most, the four seam and the splitter, were pitches that weren't elite last night, right? Okay? And then his curveball easily was his most effective pitch. He threw that for a strike almost 60% of the time. And so here's what great pitchers do. They figure out what is working that night. Last night, it was more so his curveball. The average exit velo was below 80 miles an hour last night on the curveball. So he had to, in a lot of ways, pivot in different situations. And instead of relying on the splitter or maybe even dotting up the fastball, which he wasn't able to do last night, rely on a curveball that, quite frankly, from time to time in earlier starts, he had problems with. He'd throw a perfect curveball and then hang one and then would leave the yard, right? Okay, so he had to pivot, and he did it. And I thought, really, Yoshinobuyamamoto, I talk about the 6 innings being magical. It's amazing how much better the Dodgers are when their starters go at least 6 innings. Really doesn't even matter the run total that the starter gives up. I mean, it does matter, but there's a lot of leeway there. I mean, going 6 innings, you can give up, I've said this many times, as many as 4, maybe 5 runs, and still put the Dodgers in an advantageous position. Still figured out a way, with all of that, what I just went over, to go 5 2/3 innings, give up just 5 hits, did give up the 4 runs. There we're talking about. There's your basically 6-run outing, or 6-inning outing, 4 runs. That's not a great outing as far as total results whatsoever. 6 innings, 4 runs, not great, not horrible or not catastrophic, but we talk about consistently. The Dodgers are going to be able to cover that. Figured out a way to grind 5 2/3, 5 hits, 4 runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. In my opinion, he looked more gettable last night than he had in the recent past. How about the bullpen? Alex Vesia, we've talked about, he has absolutely since last July been not good. He has been elite. I know I've had a lot of people come after me about that. Look at the results. I'm not going to argue with you. It's a fact. Look at how Alex Vesia, kind of like how gavinlux has been in his last 16 at-bats of April and then through all of his at-bats so far in May. Not going to argue about it. It's a fact. Alex Vesia has absolutely gotten the job done. He was a fireman last night, man. Came in and absolutely put out a fire. And then Michael Grove, very proud of Michael Grove. As a matter of fact, out of his last 12 outings, he's only given up runs. In 2 of them, he had a bad. For his first 4 outings were not good. I know he gave up the walk-off the other night to the Padres, and that sucked to watch, and it was not fun to watch or any of that. But actually, since his first 4 outings, Michael Grove has been good. It was absolutely great to see Blake Trinan get out there and throw and do as well as he did, Daniel Hudson. And then it was great to see J.P. Fireeisen get the save. So the bullpen, again, total team effort. You had, you scored in 5 different innings. 7 different guys had base hits. Your starter went almost 6 innings. You had 4 different guys come out of the bullpen. Vesia, Grove, Hudson, Trinan, Fireeisen. Actually, 5 different guys come out of the bullpen. So you had 6 different pitchers, 7 different hitters get base hits. You had different guys like Andy Pages, Shoheiohtani, Will Smith, Kike Hernandez, Mookie Betts, all have key at-bats. And overall, it was a total team effort. One of the biggest total team efforts in a win this year for the Dodgers. That ended up in just kind of a dramatic comeback victory. That's how you have comeback victories. How do you come back? You know, we had this conversation the other day. The Dodgers don't come in. No team comes back in the 7th, 8th, or 9th innings because you're seeing high leverage arms that are really good. Well, last night you checked all the boxes, man. So how do you do that? You have You have a total team effort where everybody contributes and everybody chips in, and that's exactly what happened to the Dodgers and got the big extra inning win last night. So moving on to Tuesday, and going to be very excited. It's Gavin Stone time for the Dodgers, and Keaton win for the Giants. Keaton win on the year, has a 5.63 ERA. He has a whip of 123, and he is 3-5 on the season. So it's going to be really exciting. Can't wait to watch tonight. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Hey, on the other side, Austin's going to join us, and we're going to talk all about, well, actually, we're not going to get into the action from the weekend because the action wasn't totally great. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about from each level who's actually doing well, the leaderboards, and all that. So stay tuned for that. Let's not waste more time. Let's get right to it, and let's take a trip down on the farm. Hey, let's start in Rancho. Talk about Rancho, maybe the statistics there, who's doing well, who's leading which categories, and all of that.
Yeah, so two guys I want to highlight for Rancho Cucamonga on the pitching side, Edgardo Henriquez and Jose Rodriguez. Two guys, big-time swings and misses. Edgardo Henriquez really standing out. He is second in the California League in a statistic called swinging strike percentage. And basically what that is, every single pitch that you throw, how often does it end up in a swing and miss? And for Edgardo Henriquez, at the single A level at Rancho Cucamonga, 21.3%. That is second in the California League, really high. He's first in the California League in strikeout percentage, striking out 50% of hitters. Absolutely unbelievable. He's not walking as many batters too because his second in strikeout minus walk percentage, a really key indicator if you want to look at how good a guy is at striking out a lot of hitters and preventing a lot of walks. His FIP and XFIP also 1.88 and 2.31 respectively. FIP and XFIP, good predictive indicators. Edgardo Henriquez, electric stuff, dominant fastball. He can move it all around. He's played a lot of the starting pitching role at the Rancho Cucamonga, going a couple of innings. He played in Great Lakes for a game last week. He was towards the back end bullpen type piece. I don't know what the future for Edgardo Henriquez is, but with the amount of swings and misses that he gets, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Yep.
And then let's go to Jose Rodriguez. Very similar situation for him as far as generating a ton of strikeouts. The ERA might not be quite there, but you look at the underlying numbers and you say there is a ton there with Jose Rodriguez. He is first in the California League in strikeouts at 42 to this point. We talked about Edgardo Henriquez being second in the swinging strike percentage. The Dodgers also have the number one player in the California League in swinging strike percentage. 23.1% of Jose Rodriguez pitches end in a swing and miss. That is
big
unbelievable. He's got big time stuff. His FIP and XFIP are 2.62 and 2.89 respectively. He has a 27.2 strikeout minus walk percentage with a 36.8% strikeout percentage and a walk percentage less than 10%, which for the California League, that is really good. So both of these guys generating a ton of swing and miss, which gets you really excited about these guys and their potential moving forward.
All right, let's move on to your level, and that would be High A Great Lakes.
Yeah, so for High A Great Lakes, there's a bunch of different areas that you can go ahead and go to as far as guys that have been statistical standouts. The main one and the guy that has already made the jump up to Double A has been Alex Freeland, and there's a couple of different indicators that just tell you how good he has been. Second in the Midwest League, if you look at players with 50 or more plate appearances in WRC plus, with a WRC plus of 209, meaning he's 109% better than the Midwest League average. He's walking 10% more than he's striking out at the Midwest League level. He is, and this is a statistical tool, actually one of my favorites at the minor league level, because with WRC plus, it's not cumulative, meaning you can look at a player who has a 200 WRC plus that has 5 plate appearances and a guy that has 500 plate appearances and not be able to tell the difference.
Right.
One of the key components inside of that helps determine the difference between the two is a statistic called weighted runs above average. Alex Freeland is 5th in minor league baseball in weighted runs above average.
Yep.
With a WRAA of 14.9, which is really, really good. One of the most productive hitters across all minor league baseball is Alex Freeland. Plays a lot of shortstop, can also play different positions, second, third base, really sweet swing. There's still a lot of power that can be generated in there, and he's starting to tap into that gap to gap, starting to hit it over the wall to Alex Freeland, incredibly talented.
No doubt about that. Who are you going with next?
Okay, let's go ahead and go with not just the Midwest League leader in home runs. Let's talk about in all of high A baseball, the leader in home runs. That is Chris Newell, outfielder for the Great Lakes Loons, playing incredibly well, playing really well to this point of the season as far as generating a ton of power. He's 4th in the Midwest League in ISO with an ISO of .287. He's got a WRC plus of 120. A lot of that has to do with some of the swing and miss that is part of the game. But recently, teams are starting to avoid pitching to Chris Newell, which means his walk percentage is starting to get up a little bit more. You saw it during the series in Lansing. He had the big home run in the game on Tuesday, and one or two other home runs. Lansing did not want to pitch to Chris Newell. He is driving a ton of baseballs over the wall. It's a smooth left-handed swing. He can hit it out of the stadium as he displayed this past week. Chris Newell is doing really well to this point of the season. And then one other guy who's doing really well to this point of the season. You could go a couple of different areas on the pitching side as far as guys that are doing really well. I'll just rattle off a couple of different guys who have really good ERAs to this point.
You better say Jared Karros.
Oh, of course I was going to say Jared Karros. And Jared Karros started on Tuesday, pitched 6 scoreless innings. He started on Sunday. I think he went scoreless or gave up just 1 run. I don't remember. Jared Karros continuing to do amazing things. He just has a 1.59 ERA. That's one of the best for a starting pitcher in the Midwest League, a 2.47 FIP and 3.37 expected FIP, striking out 28% of hitters. Jared Karros, absolutely unbelievable. A couple of other guys that I'll just mention really quick. Chris Campos.
Yep.
Doing really, really well, striking out 30.5% of hitters that he is facing, 1.69 ERA. His expected FIP is 2.86. Chris Campos is doing stuff really, really well. I know his last appearance gave up a couple of home runs, which I know he was disappointed about. Still incredibly rock solid, coming out of that piggyback type role out of the bullpen. Chris Campos has been electric. His stuff has played really, really well. He's only walking 5% of hitters as well. So it's a really good balance of throwing strikes and attacking hitters. And he's able to generate a lot of swing and miss, leading the Loons with pitchers above 10 innings in swinging strike percentage. And then one other guy that we'll go ahead and mention, Kelvin Ramirez has been great this year for the Great Lakes Loons. 1.13 ERA to this point of the season. Been one of the most reliable guys coming out of the bullpen. Stuff has been electric. He's gotten a lot of weak contact. Kelvin Ramirez, don't forget about him as well.
Yep. Hey, let's move on to AA Tulsa, and I'm going to shoot you in the direction I want to go here, right? Okay.
It.
Hey, how about Ben Casparius? We released his launch angle video on Sunday. This guy has really turned a corner from a stuff perspective, execution perspective last year, and we saw just kind of the results up and down. Now the results are showing Ben Casparius has pitched really well in AA this year.
Oh, yeah. Ben Casparius has been absolutely phenomenal at the AA level. You've seen some of the growth that he has undergone to this point, something that you saw a little bit about the adjustments that he made once he repeated the level at high A last year. And just this stuff is electric, the breaking ball. Of
course, he's in AAA now, but most of his action's been in AA.
And that's kind of where we're going to focus on a lot of his numbers on AA, not even including his, 5 scoreless innings was what it was during that outing against Sugarland. Ben Casparius pitched incredibly well for the Tulsa Drillers to this point of the season. 36% strikeout percentage. Wow. You're talking about an ERA, FIP, and XFIP in the low 3s, 3.32, 3.37, 3.24. Doing incredibly well. Second or third, I think, on Tulsa in swinging strike percentage at 15%, which is really, really solid. Ben Casparius, the stuff absolutely is there. It's playing really well off of each other. And you're starting to see hitters really get off balance as Ben Casparius is learning how to adapt and how to pitch to higher competition hitting. That is really good. That is just a lot of growth that he has had. And his promotion to AAA Oklahoma City Baseball Club, more than well deserved for him.
Absolutely. Who are we going with next?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and stay on the pitching side, and let's talk about the pair that he was promoted with on the pitching side, who was beyond unbelievable at the AA level, and that's the Maytag Jack Dreyer. Just you look at his numbers up and down the board. For a relief pitcher, man, I was not expecting him to spend only less than 15 innings at the AA level. But he went out there and performed above and beyond the level that the Dodgers were forced to promote him to AAA. Looking at his numbers, did not give up a single earned run, so his ERA is 0. His FIP and XFIP, you could say, are inflated from his ERA. They're 1.53 and 1.89. So a little bit of a difference between there. Still absolutely phenomenal. Striking out almost 38% of hitters, walking less than 6% at the AA level. He's also generating a ton of swing and miss too. His swinging strike percentage is 19.3%, which if you extrapolate that to a full season, that's about the swing and strike percentage that Sarin Lau and Kyle Hurt had last season, which means that he's generating swings and misses on a whole new level, which that's actually 2% better than Sarin Lau is doing. And Sarin Lau is getting in a lot of swings and misses this season. Jack Dreyer doing really well. Also, his ground ball percentage, over 66. It's at almost 68% at the AA level, which means the balls that are put in play, ground balls, you can deal with that if you're a pitcher. Even if some of those balls get through, I know there is couple of outings this past week in which balls got through at the high A Great Lakes level, you'll deal with that because a lot of those are going to end up in the gloves of defenders and those are going to end in outs. And for Jack Dreyer, man, the promotion to AAA this quickly after he spent the entire last season in high A Great Lakes and pitched phenomenally well, that speaks incredibly highly of what the Dodgers think of him and his prospects going forward for Jack Dreyer. So those are the two guys on the pitching side that will kind of stand out. On the offensive side, there's been a lot of really good contributors. So I want to kind of run through a list of about 5 different guys who have done really well offensively. We'll kind of run through them fairly quickly. We've talked about how good Austin Gauthier is. We won't spend as much time, even though he absolutely deserves it. He's just 5th in the Texas League when he was part of AA in WRC plus 159. He was 1st in walks divided by strikeouts, meaning that balance between walks and strikeouts. He's walking well more than he strikes out. And he has a 207 ISO. Really solid, really respectable. One of those aspects that I was looking for with Austin Gauthier moving forward as he continues to go up the level with some of the indicators that predict future MLB success with how good he's been in the minor leagues. A couple of other guys I want to just rattle off some WRC pluses because these guys have been really, really solid. Austin Beck, 148 WRC plus, hitting for a lot of power, 0.265 ISO. Outfielder, can really drive the baseball and has performed really well for the Tulsa Drillers this season. Dalton Rushing. I know a lot of Dodgers fans are curious about Dalton Rushing. he's just going out there and continuing to perform. The jump to AA, still doing really well with that. 133 WRC plus, 12.2 and 21.4 walks and strikeout percentage respectively. Driving the ball really well. Good balance between power and strikeouts. Dalton rushing, doing really solid. GLP, Griffin Lockwood power, lock, 122 WRC plus. ISO's better than his strikeout percentage. Good balance of that. Only swinging missing 6.1% of pitches that he sees, which is one of the best in the Texas League. Griffin Lockwood Powell playing a lot of first base, hitting the ball really well, making that adjustment to the AA really well. And then also got to mention Taylor Young, 123 WRC plus. He only has 10 stolen bases. He's 6th in the Texas League. I think that's going to continue to go up. Started off the season, he already has 11 extra base hits, so some of those stolen bases got taken up by some of the power that he was generating early in the season. He's doing really well to this point of the season. Good group of guys that are performing well above league average at the AA level, and a lot of them for their first action in AA baseball.
Okay, who are we going with? Let's move up to the AAA level. Who are you going to start with there?
Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the guy who was started the season on the big league club last season. That's Miguel Vargas, because Miguel Vargas is playing really, really well to this point of the season. He is 2nd in the Pacific Coast League and weighted runs above average. Remember that cumulative portion in WRC plus. He has a 147 WRC plus. But he's been down at the AAA level the entire season. He has been consistently good, not just over a couple of plate appearances, but a lot of plate appearances. He's walking more than he's striking out. Miguel Vargas is doing a lot of good at the AAA level. And even if there isn't a home for Miguel Vargas at the big league club, this is beyond great news for the Dodgers, because that means that teams are going to start to hopefully respect the level of talent Miguel Vargas has, because he absolutely deserves it. And he's proving to this point that he's making adjustments and he can hit AAA pitching. Now it's about making that jump to the major league and finding that groove and getting comfortable at major league pitching, which all of this I think can come together for Miguel Vargas, and he can do really well.
Okay, who are we going with next? AAA.
All right, let's go ahead and go with Ryan Ward, because he is 2nd in home runs in the Pacific Coast League. He is driving the baseball right now. He's also 2nd in ISO in the Pacific Coast League. And not just that, he's also 3rd in all of minor league baseball in ISO with a .413, I believe is what it is, ISO, which is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely unbelievable, which, gotta say, that might be inflated a little bit because of the Pacific Coast League, but even in the environment that he is in, he's still 2nd in his own league in ISO, putting up a 115 WRC plus, driving the baseball a lot. Ryan Ward, he can really hit home runs. One of the more underrated home run hitters in this system right now. Let's go ahead and talk about a guy that we talk about quite a bit, but I think it's important to say how good he has been, Drew Avans. We're going to use a little bit more standard statistical categories, but we'll also bring up some of the more analytical stuff. Drew Avans is 1st, not just in the Pacific Coast League, 1st in all of minor league baseball in runs, being able to find ways to get on base and score a run.
Not to interrupt you, but I always say with Drew Avans, tell him that you need him to be top 10 in runs scored, and don't worry about the batting average or any of that. He will figure out a way to be top 10 in runs scored. He does it every single year.
He's 1st in all of minor league baseball in that category. Yeah. And you talk about not needing to worry about being batting average and stuff. Guess what? He's 4th in all MLB in hits.
Yeah.
And he's continuing to find ways to be productive, continuing to find ways to help his team win. He is a true gritty baseball player. 125 WRC plus to this point of the season, performing really, really well. Drew Avans you got to be excited if you are the Dodgers with what Drew Avans has done. I know he's not really getting a whole lot of opportunities, but what he has been doing has to be recognized because it is really, really solid for Drew Avans. So got to be happy about what he's doing.
Yeah, and he's going to be a free agent after this year, so that'll be exciting for him. Okay, pitching. Let's go to Eduardo Salazar. Very underrated. He's another one of those Landon Knack type mold guys. Very professional outings every time he goes out.
Yeah, very professional outings. When he goes out, he's going to go out there and he's going to generate a lot of contact. He's not going to get as much swings and misses. He's not going to walk a whole lot of hitters too, only walking 7.8% of hitters that he is facing. He's going to go out there. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to generate a lot of that weak contact for Eduardo Salazar. One of those underrated guys that you look at, and he does really well. He generates a lot of ground balls too. 58.6% of the batted balls end up in some type of ground ball. Eduardo Salazar, you could be seeing him for the Dodgers at some point.
Okay, last guy we're going to talk about, this is Dinelson Lamet. Has the big stuff. Lots of swing and miss. Not always in the strike zone, though, but he's in the strike zone enough to be effectively wild. His numbers look good.
Yeah, Dinelson Lamet has been pitching really well. ERA 3.79 to this point of the season at the AAA Oklahoma City level. We've seen him at the big league club. We've seen the effective stuff that Dinelson Lamet has had. I think he's going to continue to play a key contributor for this club in the future. Got a lot of big league experience, can generate some swings and misses. Sometimes it can be a little bit wild, but effectively wild, I think is the best way to be able to put it for Dinelson Lamet. Really solid. One of those guys, big league experience, still fighting to find consistent role at the major league level, getting a lot of good experience with the AAA Oklahoma City Baseball Club.
Another couple guys I want to give honorable mentions to were Nick Ramirez and Matt Gage, who both pitched twice over the weekend, both lefty relievers that I think you need to keep your eye on.